Oh, hello. This is Tak Chung from Walk with Tak. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Yesterday, my wife brought in about 20 tomatoes from the garden. They are just at their perfect ripeness. And I realized that I need to use them up quickly because they're going to go bad on me. So if you have a lot of tomatoes from your garden, this might be a video that you will find it helpful. Because I'm going to make a tomato egg drop soup. It is very simple and easy to make. And it takes just a little bit over 10 minutes. And I'm going to make it in my Cuisinart 14-inch stainless steel wok. This video is another demonstration of the usefulness of a stainless steel wok. You can use it for many other cooking functions in addition to stir frying. So first thing is to get our tomatoes ready. And I'm going to use about 10 tomatoes. Getting the tomatoes prepared for the soup is very simple. I just cut them in half. And I use my ceramic knife, and it works really well with tomatoes. And it slices through the tomatoes as you slice through butter. And once I cut it in half, I use the knife to extract the portion where the stem is located. This is important because it makes it easier for you to remove the skin. For the tomato soup, it is important to remove the skin. And once you remove the stem, as the tomato has been boiled in water, you can simply use a pair of tongs to tear off the skin. And the first thing I'm going to do is to add about 3 cups of water to the wok. Because I want the soup to be relatively concentrated. Because tomato contain a lot of water. And the water from the tomato will add it to the soup. While I bring the water to boil, I cut up the tomatoes. And then I add the tomatoes to the wok. I put the skin side of the tomatoes in the water first. This will allow the skin to heat up, and it is easier then for me to remove them. There are many ways for you to remove the skin from the tomatoes. Boiling them in water is one way. Another way is to put the tomatoes in the microwave. You put the tomatoes in a container and you microwave the whole thing for about 10 to 15 minutes. However, boiling them in water is probably the simplest way. I usually boil the tomatoes for about 2 to 3 minutes. Then I use a pair of tongs to lift the skins off the tomatoes. And if they don't come up easily, it means that you need to boil them a little bit longer. Initially, it might seem there are not enough water in the wok. However, after you boil them for a while, you notice that the fluid level will increase. Tomatoes contain a lot of water. In fact, 90% of the mass of the tomato is actually water. I use a pair of long-handled tongs to work on removing the skin from the tomatoes. It is actually quite easy to do. As the heat softens the texture of the tomato, the skin should lift right off. As I am removing the skin, I continue to stir the content in the wok. And the flesh of the tomatoes breaks up very easily. As you can tell, the fluid level in the wok continues to rise because from the fluid that is released from the tomatoes. And the tomato is at the perfect ripeness to make this soup. When we have a lot of garden tomatoes, this is probably one of the best ways to use them up. And by now, the soup is almost ready. This is a demonstration of how fast that you can make this soup. And the wok is a perfect utensil for this purpose. And the large opening of the wok provide ample space in maneuvering the contents. And next step is I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of spicy radish. The Chinese word for this radish is 榨菜. Now this radish goes very well with this tomato soup. I wish you hear that I can let you try it. At this point, you just need to trust me that it goes well. It is a traditional fermented product, and it has a salty and slightly spicy flavor. And this flavor goes particularly well in tomato soup. Quite often people also eat it over noodles, and it's a good accompaniment for rice porridge. You can buy this online. For example, in here you can buy a 6-pack from Amazon. And if you live close to an Asian grocery store, you can get them there. You can just buy a single pack. And they usually cost about $2 to $3. I'm going to start out by adding about 1/4 cup of this radish to the soup. I know I probably would need a little bit more, but I'm going to do a taste test first. Because the flavor of the tomato will be different depending on the ripeness of the tomatoes. This will interact with the radish. Basically what I'm doing here is flavor chasing to find the flavor that I want. I decided that I would like to add a little bit more after doing a taste test. And next, I'm going to add a bit of my basic seasoning mix. And this will further enhance the umami flavor of the soup. By now, the texture of the soup is basically reached the way how I want it. I turn off the heat, and next I beat up 1 egg. I add the egg slowly to the wok as I stir the soup. This then allows me to create the egg drop soup. Here I use 1 egg. It depends on the amount of the soup that you have, or your preference of how much eggs you want to have in the soup. Some people like to have more eggs, whereas in some cases people like to have only a very small amount of eggs. Or in some cases, you can skip the egg completely. This soup is very easy to make. The flavor of the soup comes entirely from the freshness of the tomatoes. I only make this soup when I have fresh garden tomatoes. And I only use the tomatoes when they reach the perfect ripeness. The use of the pickled radish is only one of many ways that you can season the soup. For example, you can season the soup with chicken broth. You can add potatoes, onion, or celery to the soup as well. It has almost infinite possibilities. But the foundation of the soup is the tomatoes, and the perfect ripeness of the garden tomatoes holds the key. And I strongly recommend you to try the pickled radish. And this soup goes particularly well with fresh baked bread. I have a very simple recipe for baking a very nice bread. And this bread has a nice crust, but it has a very soft crumb. It is a very light and fluffy bread. And so we have a very nice soup and bread dinner. Enjoy the bounty of the tomatoes from the garden. In addition, in this video, I want to show you how to make use of your fresh garden tomatoes. I would also like to demonstrate the flexibility of a stainless steel wok. And by selecting the right wok, you can use it for many other cooking functions other than stir frying. This will not work with a carbon steel or a cast iron wok because it will remove the seasoning and that will result in rusting. And you don't have to worry about this in a stainless steel wok. I post a video each day to help you to make home cooking as part of your daily routines to use my fast cooking system. If you want to learn more about my fast cooking system, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. So keep on cooking. I will see you tomorrow.